Welcome everybody to Fuel Your Drive, and today's episode is going to be a real special one. Let me tell you something. I hear about, I say this all the time. You hear me talk about it. Mindset. Mindset is so important. Now today we have a very special individual on who I'm actually inspired by. His name is Logan Aldridge, and let me tell you something. Logan, he's a special guy. Okay, after a really horrific accident at age 13, he was able to take action and not make excuses. And today, well, my man Logan is the fittest one-armed individual in the world. Yes, that's right. And his mindset is going to match that. So welcome to the show, Logan. I'm really excited to have you, bud.
Josh, pleasure to be here, brother. Thanks for having me, man. And thank you for that introduction. You're making me blush over here if anybody's watching. All these kind words.
Well, not everyone can see Logan right now, but I see him. He's looking mighty handsome. So listen, Logan, first off, I want people to understand your story. I happen to just be scrolling through social media and saw this, and I could be mistaken, but I think it was like 500 pounds or some crazy number you were lifting up with one arm. And I'm a pretty strong dude, man. And I can't even do that with two arms, to be honest with you. But so why don't you first tell everyone your story? Because I want people to understand, no matter what, no matter how many times you might get knocked down, no matter how bad things can be, I always like to say, take your watch and cut a little Post-it out, put it on there and write NOW, because now is always the time, and there's no time for excuses, and you're the perfect example. So you are going to be able to help and inspire and change a lot of lives in this episode.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell your audience a little bit about myself, who I am, because I think it'll give them some context to realize, first of all, I'm just a dude. I'm just a bro. And with the mindset, we can determine and realize at the end of the day, we are far more capable than we believe. And that's the message I share, and I do it through my actions. So background on me, 29 years old, born and raised Raleigh, North Carolina. As you mentioned, lost my arm at 13 years old in a bit of like a traumatic but yet unique boating accident. Very, very unique in the sense that probably couldn't replicate it if you tried. And that's how a lot of these accidents in life for people happen. Split second, everything changes. An environment, wrong place, wrong time, whatever it might be, it happened. And so for me, it was wrapping the rope around my arm, pulling it in after finishing wakeboarding, and then the rope got caught in the propeller of the boat. So that rope, basically like a tourniquet, if you could imagine, happening around your bicep and tricep. So this really thin rope just pulled super tight and just cut through everything down to the bone. Now, I was 13, scrawny 13-year-old. My whole life, I've always been active and into being active. I'm tough to sit down for a long time. Parents could never keep me at the dinner table for more than 5 minutes. But, at 13.
That's me too.
Exactly. So, that happened at 13, and I was left-handed. And so it was my left arm that this accident happened to. So I go to the hospital, surrounded by incredible doctors at UNC Children's Hospital, because, again, I'm here in North Carolina where it happened. And to give a little bit of context to it as well, this was not me, just recreationally having fun on the wakeboard and an accident happened. I come from a family of recreationally competitive water skiers, and we bought a lake house when I was very young, and I became aware of what wakeboarding was at a very young age, 6 or 7, and I fell in love with it. I had always been, at that age especially, into extreme sports. I've always been an athlete, but I wasn't drawn towards football or basketball or traditional sports. I was drawn towards those that are extreme. I love skateboarding, snowboarding, wakeboarding, and surfing. Those are my jam. And wakeboarding, because we had a lake house, we got an awesome wakeboard boat, I was training. My goal was to become a professional wakeboarder. So spent all my time at camps in Florida, and when I was home, straight up training. So not riding for fun, but with intention and a training mindset in that environment at that age. And that's just been who I've always been. I always think that I was going to try to be a professional and an expert at something. And after this accident, things changed. In a very positive way. So let me get to that point. I had the accident happen. It didn't rip my arm off. I thought, I might save my arm. And in the ambulance, we're riding to the hospital. I remember thinking about, what's going on, the possibility of what might happen. I remember looking up at my mom and asking my mom, what if I lose my arm? And now, granted, she's a mother, 13-year-old son, crazy thing just happened. She doesn't know how to comprehend this, and let alone what to tell the boy who is asking, Mom, what if I lose my arm, my dominant arm? And without skipping a beat, her response was, "Logan, it's just an arm." And now that was probably more for her benefit so that she could compartmentalize this injury and say, "Logan, you're alive. You haven't bled out yet. That's great. Let's focus on that." But for me, those words, I didn't realize at the time, would be the most profound statement for me to cope and move on and accept this life with one arm. In the moment, there's profoundness in the statement in and of itself. It's like, wow, well, that's true. I should be appreciative that I'm alive. It is just an arm. I have another one. Thank goodness. And that was the immediate mindset. But as life went on, got out of the hospital, arm was amputated, few weeks have gone by. I'm integrating back into, rehabilitation and then back into like my social environment of my community. I recognized that people were always going to expect that my life was very different now. And it was, I'm viewed now as a disabled individual in the sense that I have apparent limitations physically. You look at me walking down the street, that dude's missing an arm. There's things that happen in our brain, as they should, that start to tell us, oh, he can't do this, he can't do that, he probably struggles with this. And it's a way, it's how we survive. It's fight or flight. We have to make these first impression judgments in order to understand if we're in a safe environment or we should save our own lives. But this is an instant that I became a parent of, that expectations were going to be placed on me for the rest of my life in ways that I wasn't ready to identify as. So I wasn't ready to be seen as this handicapped guy or this guy that can't do much because he has one arm. And I was not going to accept the expectations of others. And an example of that was, not even in fitness, but in writing. I lost my dominant arm. So the doctors and even my teachers were like, he might not write for a long time, if ever again. It could take a long time. So we'll get him note takers. This was in 2004. They said, we'll get him a laptop. We'll do all this stuff. And I thought that was the most unbelievable expectation to place on me, to say, how the hell do you think I can't write again? And so my response to that was, I'm going to start writing right now. I'm always that type of person where tell me I can't, and then I have to prove that I can. And it's not to be spiteful, but it's to profoundly show that you shouldn't accept expectations of others. I love the classic quote from Michael Jordan, that if we accept expectations of others, especially the negative ones, we'll never change the outcome. And I experienced that most profoundly in that example of writing. So a month later, I was writing better with my right hand than I did with my left. So like, what an example of expectations. And then, throughout the unfolding of meeting friends, going back to school, this just compounded. It just became what I saw as expectations were prejudgments that we made on ourselves, but often one another, that typically limit our potential. That's my definition of an expectation from my experience. Prejudgments. We put them on ourselves all the time. We put them on the weather. We put them on the external environment all the time, what we think the day is going to be like.
Let's touch on that for a second, because it's funny. Because
you
know how many stories I've heard like that, where doctors have said, you can't, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is, look, I like to look at people like us, okay? Because I look at you as just normal, my friend. I'm just being honest with you, because I look at the inside, and I know you got the goods. Like, you have the goods. Yeah. And I say this, it's really 0.5% of people are like us. Now, that doctor who said that to you, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, that you're not going to ever write again, well, it's just great that you proved them wrong. But that's what most people think. Like, I like to look, when I speak a lot, the main theme of my speech is always how to make the impossible possible, because that's what I do. And I know you do the same thing. Now, let's talk about how many weak-minded people are out there, because I hear, like I said, I hear things like this all the time. And I'll give you an example. I heard recently from a friend of mine, someone got in an accident, severely, very bad accident, like severely, like horrible, and supposedly said they're never going to be able to walk again. Now, this person, just like us, very strong-minded, yeah, they're walking again. Took about 3 years, but they're walking again. But, I really believe, like, strength is here. Okay. Yes. Physical strength is great. I always like to say mindset, and I say this all the time, 80% mindset, 20% tactical with life in general. So, you took a very negative situation. As I like to say, you take negatives, you slice them down the center and make them a positive. And you're a pretty big deal right now. Like, people look at you as like, wow, this guy's special. So, how do you think, from your perspective, people who, don't have, one less arm, or don't be able to have the ability to make those moves in life, how can they do it? Because, that's the biggest challenge. I always tell people, you got to do things you're uncomfortable with. You have to, and then you adapt and you get better. But from your perspective, what can you touch on that with that?
Yeah, I love that question. And I try to make my answers to questions like that as simplistic as possible.
Yep.
So that it can be heard to the individual it needs to be heard to the most. It's all mindset. And that word is overused, but to go deeper, to go what I mean by that, in my experience, there are 3 types of human beings in relation to mindset. Life either happens to you
or for you. I'm with you.
It either happens for you or through you. And that is the basis of mindset. Life is hard. Life is beautiful, but at the same time, it can suck if you're in the wrong mindset when things get hard. So it's about challenging your mindset to maintain the perspective of abundance, to maintain the perspective of gratitude. And I think that is done for me very easily. Because I'm missing an arm, I can say that little phrase that my mom said to me, no matter what, wherever I am, if I'm struggling being hard on myself, if I'm struggling with whatever it is in life, if it's tough for me, I can remind myself, hey, Logan, it's just an arm. And it triggers a reaction in my brain that makes me think, wow, how grateful am I to be alive and have one arm? How grateful am I to get opportunities to challenge myself with one arm? So starts with that. You recognize that there are 3 main categories in which you view the world. And then from there, you find a way to resonate action in yourself. So it's a power of choice. It's a power of choice. You can do this with the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. It's super effective. You want to take action. You want to do something. You're laying in bed. The alarm's going off. You go to hit snooze. Don't do it. All you have to do is 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action. And by counting down, you're requiring your brain to switch from a different part to a different part that makes you do something. So in simplistic terms, figure out how you view in the world, change that if you're viewing it the wrong way. If life's happening to you, you've got to change how you're seeing the world. And then secondly, find something that you can relate to. What my version is, it's just. Now, if you can't, if you're like, I don't know, Logan, like life's been good, I don't know. I'm just a lazy person. I'm just lazy and I'm not into working out. It doesn't make sense to me. Well, then I encourage you to change some words in your vocabulary. Change whatever is going on. Change. You don't have to do anything. So change have tos to get tos. So just replace have with get, and you reiterate this abundance recognition. And once you start to see things in a different light of gratitude and abundance, you start to be excited to take action. You start to be excited to make a choice that is going to move you in a positive direction. So I think that's the bigger message I try to tell people. And then if you know anything about me, if you've watched anything that I personally do with myself and for others through my education with adaptive training, you know for certain that human beings are far more capable and have more potential than we deem possible. You know that for certain. I show it every day in countless examples. Not in my own actions. I try to in my own actions, whether it's the weight I'm lifting and whatnot. But more importantly, this message is bigger than me. This message is showing like you mentioned, someone who's bound to a wheelchair from a spinal cord injury, paralyzed up at the upper chest, doing sit-ups, something that they have no abdominal function, yet they're able to, through training, persistency, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, challenging themselves on a daily basis, not becoming stagnant and sedentary and saying, this is the new normal for me, but challenging it. You discover in it, without getting too, physiological, scientific, but you discover new pathways not only for your neurological system, but like for your thoughts, new pathways for your thoughts. Like grit is critical, and grit is developed through enduring hard things. Hard things are in workouts. In workouts, when you're on rep 4 and you're like, God, this is really freaking hard. Well, you could do rep 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can go to 20. But your brain will tell you that rep 5 and 6, you should put it down. You should stop. You are far more capable than you believe. That's the root of it all.
Let me tell you something, man. You literally gave me goosebumps. Not even joking. Like, that's how powerful that was. So I want everyone to stop right now. I want you to pause this podcast and I want you to rewind the last 3.5, 4 minutes of what he just said and play it over in your head 10, 15, 20 times, because that is so spot on. You know, and something I'd like to touch on with that as well. See, I play games with myself in my head. It's like almost like I create an alter ego. So I never hit the snooze button, never. I usually don't even need an alarm. I get up every day at 3:45. I don't drink coffee. My energy, I'm sure you feel my passion dripping on your screen right now. Like I'm out of control. Yep. But I play this game in my mind every morning that Mr. Smith is outside my house. Who's Mr. Smith? He's literally my sniper. And if I don't get out my house at the same time every day, all right, I'm in my truck by 4:14 a.m. every day. And if I don't start my Instagram video where I do my wake up call 4:16, it's 4:16. Sometimes I might wait a couple minutes if I'm kind of vibing to the music or whatever.
Right.
Mr. Smith got me, and my life's over. But I'm so on point that a sniper could literally get me every day. And look, I know you talk about Mel Robbins. Something she likes to talk about a lot that I've always spoke about, and I heard her speaking about is the reticular activating system in your brain, and how that you allow that function to program what you want in that section of your brain. And obviously there's only so much room that goes in there, but like you just said, get rid of the have tos with the gets. Like, that's just powerful, man. That's so powerful. And people need to understand that, because look, I'm a very big believer that pain equals success. You have to go through pain. It's got to be so painful that you want to quit every time, and you have to just keep getting up and going after it. But you really got to listen to what my man Logan said, because honestly, that is, look, I've interviewed some very, 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 very high level people, and I've never got goosebumps, but you literally gave me goosebumps because you're speaking my language, and I really hope other people can relate to that. But let's dive deeper now, right? So, then people start feeling sorry for themselves, okay? Then people start saying, all right, well, because this is my biggest pet peeve in the world, is when someone says, oh, well, I tried it once, I tried it twice, oh, I tried it for 2 weeks, it doesn't work. If you want to get a six-pack and you think you're going to get that in 2 weeks, you're out of your mind, okay? If you want to become fit, it takes years and years. I like to say practice makes permanence. You have to constantly continue to perfect your craft. But now in a situation where people feel sorry for themselves, and you have people who just, take this current situation, what's going on right now, there's always opportunity. There's always opportunity, no matter what. But it goes back right here again. So for those people who feel sorry for themselves and they're listening to you, but then in 4 weeks, they're going to go back to exactly the same thing, what do you say to them then? How can you be that change? Because some people are just not going to change because they don't want to. But if we could just impact one person by something you say and something I say, that means a lot to me.
Yeah. I'm not about, providing like statements that are really esoteric and like just make them think a lot. That's why I, refer to the have tos and get tos and using the 5-second rules. But I think for that sort of mindset, I like to tell those types of people thinking that way that how you do anything is how you do everything. And that is a little bit more, not so tangible as the typical statements I like to make, but it relates to understanding that if that was hard and you didn't feel success or motivation or encouragement in 2 weeks, well, no shit. Like that, wouldn't everyone have 6-packs in the world if that was the case? If in 2 weeks you saw encouragement, you saw positive reinforcement, and you were reminded that you're on the right track? No, it takes trust. It takes trust that doing the hard things will make you a better person. So experiencing pain in order to achieve success is a great reminder. Being uncomfortable is a great reminder. But to me, it hits home for myself when I think how I do anything is how I do everything. Because for the example of fitness in and of itself, we're just trying to move people, get people to move to be healthy and active. How you do anything is how you do everything, in the sense that it doesn't stop with the fitness. Yep. There is exercising your mind. There is exercising your gut in the sense of nutrition. What are you putting into your body?
Yep.
Is absolutely relevant to feeling good, looking good, and performing good. So I think that's the biggest thing that people miss out on. They're like, I put in the work. I went to the gym and I did the effort. So now I should be rewarded. There should be something that I get this treat. I get this thing. But no, it's a constant sharpening of the mind, sharpening of the body, sharpening of your discipline. And you know, the everything, the rant I went on for 3 minutes, you know, these are things I have to say to myself. Like, I am absolutely not immune to any of these, whether it's excuses, whether it's obstacles that, you know, overwhelm me. I'm not immune to it. And to relate to the current environment, yeah, it's extremely overwhelming for me as well. You know, look at us. We're two white dudes sitting here. Like, there's a lot that we don't understand, and we have privilege in massive ways. And I, through this experience, have had the coolest opportunity to look at a mirror, you know, to look at a mirror and see myself and say, you know, I'm so dedicated to persevering, to proving resilience, to showing that we're more capable than we believe, and that inclusion is more needed than ever, whether it's for somebody's perspective on somebody with a disability or the color of their skin. Like, now is the chance to look at yourself and to say, am I a part of the problem or am I a part of the solution? And whether that's race or whether that's your own mental health, because unless you focus on yourself first and fix yourself, there's no way we can help change systemic issues, regardless of what that is. Obesity in this country, racism in this country, or whatever. We have to see ourselves first in the mirror clearly, and then take action to, first of all, keep ourselves encouraged and motivated and moving in a positive direction, but then reiterate that we are better together. The more people we can help motivate, the more our actions can show someone to our left or right that, man, I was having a shitty day, and look at this person doing this thing that looks really hard, but they're doing it. There's a really cool butterfly effect that can happen if we just stay the course and stay on the path of doing what's right and band together. And I think, how fortunate are we to be in a time right now where we have the opportunity to do that?
100%. Look, you said something earlier that was really, really important. You said, you know, you lead by example, you know, and when you lead by example, you know, that's how leaders are created. Leaders always will create new leaders by following what they do. And, you know, everything comes down to discipline. It's not motivation. You can't be motivated every day. And I'm sure you have that self-negative talk that comes into your mind, and you have to get rid of it, because everyone has it. You're a human being. I get it sometimes too, but I've been able to train my mind just like you have to be able to, you know, obviously crush that and focus on the positivity. But, you know, you said, you know, talked about hard things. Why don't you share with everyone some of the hard things you do? Because you lift some pretty crazy weights, my friend. And I was pretty impressed. So why don't we touch on some of those numbers? Because they're out of control.
I'm like a one-armed circus show when it comes to fitness. You know, I love, you know, this is me personally, you know, talking about my desires and passions. I love being challenged. I love when I am skeptical about me being capable of doing something. Yep. That's where I thrive. So that's why I'm so into this hardcore style of fitness, this insane, fast-paced, high-intensity, lift heavy weight, run really fast, and keep going. You know, I deadlift really heavy weight. I can deadlift 500 pounds. I can run a sub 6-minute mile. I clean and jerk on a barbell. I do a lot of barbell Olympic lift stuff, barbell cycling. I can clean and jerk 200 pounds. I can squat clean 265 pounds. And for sure, these were all things that I never had goals to do these things. These weren't like, when I get there, I've proven that I'm fit. And the title, you know, me calling myself the fittest one-armed man on earth, please know that's not coming from a place of like narcissism or arrogance that I believe that in myself, but I'm a part of a community. I'm a part of a community of adaptive athletes, and we compete and train together collectively. And we compete on international platforms. We come together every year, and the workouts are very, you know, functional fitness, CrossFit centric, in the sense that we're challenging all 10 domains of fitness. We want to see strength, coordination, flexibility, speed, agility, power, all of this stuff demonstrated in a series of workouts over the course of 3 or 4 days, so that at the end of this, we can determine and deem the fittest individual on earth with their respective impairment category. So for me, last year, that was the competition that I won, and it deemed me the fittest on earth. And that's
Awesome,
why I've
man.
done that. So what I hope the world, what I hope your listeners hear from me is I didn't go out and try to build a world where everyone looks at Logan for Logan to be the center of attention and motivation. I'm grateful and appreciative of viral videos, of my lifts going on, Sports Center and ESPN, and it affords me opportunities. Like never would I have met you, Josh, and have this opportunity. And this is amazing. I'm very grateful for it. But what I hope people take away is if you figure out a way to serve the world, make money at it, and pursue your passion and something you love, then you're in a really great place. Now, the holy grail is if through all that, you're also able to leave a legacy, at least from my opinion. So my work is in developing a platform that empowers people with impairments to not only realize that they're more capable in what they believe, but here are the tools to train. Here are the tools so that you feel included and accessible at every fitness facility you go to, whatever training style you want to be, a bodybuilder, a CrossFitter, whatever. And so the Adaptive Training Academy, my company, does that. And that's why we've been able to build this platform and create a level playing field for people with impairments to compete in fitness in order for us to be empowered, first and foremost. And secondly, a really cool byproduct is we're pursuing health and wellness. We're taking someone who, if they fell out of their wheelchair on their own in their house, would be immobile until a caregiver came to help them get up. Well, through fitness, we then take that person and make them functional enough to transition back into their wheelchair after falling out of it. We've changed their life. We've changed their life. We didn't change their life by giving them a six-pack and now they're proud to walk around and show it off. We changed their life because we made them more functional. We made them have real-world transference in that. And that's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I believe, I hope, that with my actions and my passion behind that, that's the legacy I'm going to leave. That's the organization I started and one I hope that will be on this earth long after me, so that it's not viewed as me walking down the street and it's like, oh, that guy's missing an arm. No, it's like, oh, that's an athlete. That's a one-arm athlete. Like that people see the ability and they don't see the disability.
It's really special, man. Well, you let me know anything I can do to help you with that, because that's really great what you're doing. I really, really like that. And, you're going to inspire a lot of people. And, look, the last question I always like to ask is, if you were doing this interview, what question would you ask?
Oh, what a good question.
Always throws people off.
Here's what I would ask. I love this one. Out of all the success, opportunity, and events that have happened and unfolded that you're so grateful for, would you attribute most of this or some of it to hard work, grit, perseverance, or what portion of it has anything to do with luck? So I love asking this question. I hear an incredible reporter I revere asks these sorts of questions all the time. And it's great to see from listeners who view oftentimes, and frankly, I don't view myself in this light at all, but listeners are often listening to this show and the individual is very successful. They've accomplished it. They've won in the sense, their business is thriving, successful. They make a ton of money. And this question is always very interesting to ask because it reveals, was this something I deserved, or was this something that I worked really hard on? And I think that's a cool question to ask and to hear people's mindset on luck.
So how would you answer it?
Yeah, so I knew that was going to be the next question. I see what you're doing here, Joe. For me, this is actually cool. I've never gotten a chance to think about the answer to this question, but I believe it would go something like this. For me, I believe I'm lucky to have lost my arm. I believe the event, what in the moment was tragic, traumatic, awful, bad, so sorry. Everybody in my life is so sorry for me. I can say with certainty that this is the best thing that ever happened in my life. And I didn't have much of a say in it happening. So I'm very lucky that the event happened. Now, I do not believe luck played a part on what I did thereafter. I believe that was mindset, that was discipline, and that was a ton of credit to my mother. That was the words from my mom's mouth when I'm first questioning what is my life about to be like. And she says, it's just an arm. That is the statement I've told myself over and over for the past 15 years to maintain the mindset of you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. And that's the basis of it. And I think that's
a great answer, man. That's a great answer. I'm going to answer that too, because I like that question. And,
yeah, please.
you know, I think, you know, I had a rough life growing up and I never talk about it. I never really open up on it, but I would never change anything that's happened to me, ever. I believe I was lucky that all the things happened to me because it made me to who I am today.
Yes.
As far as where I am right now, that was the hardest work, and to this day, still the hardest work I will ever do, and I will continue to do, because you have to create your own luck. And how do you create your own luck? By always showing up. That simple. Like the little things. Like I remember back in the day when I used to, you know, obviously I don't know if you know much about my business, GYMGUYZ, but we're, you know, we actually just opened in your area, so you're going to be seeing our vans everywhere. Like literally in like the next like probably 5 to 6 weeks, you'll be seeing our vehicles everywhere. But you know, we're disrupting the fitness industry. We bring the workouts to you, no brick and mortar. And when I used to actually train people back in the day, I never missed an appointment ever. Like Logan, ever, no matter what. There's been times where I literally have had the flu or like a stomach bug, and I was literally pulled over on the side of the road throwing up, and had to also become an actor. Because I always say a good leader is a good actor. And not that I want to get my clients sick. Like if I was really sick, I would let them know. Like if they're not comfortable, I'm not going to come. But I would literally put on an act to make it look like I felt good, although I was dying, to still get the session in. And there's been times where we've had blizzards where a normal drive to the client's house would be 15 minutes, took me like 3 hours, and I never missed an appointment. One time got a flat, ran to my client's house, took care of the flat after, ran so I could be on time.
Yes.
Like those things are very important. But when I say showing up, it's doing those things that you don't want to do. Like I speak at many events now. I'll never forget the first one. I was in the bathroom throwing up. Literally, I was throwing up. I had such anxiety, I was throwing up. And people think, oh, well, Josh Short's superhuman. He has no anxiety. That's not true. I get anxiety all the time, but I use it as fuel, right? I'm all about that. So
is it anxiety or is it excitement? And if you could just switch anxiety to excitement, then it's absolutely fuel.
Yeah, but once you start doing it, it goes away. Yeah. But you got to just do it. That's why I love Nike. Just do it, right? You just do it. You just always got to do it. And that's very, very simple. But you create your own luck, you know, and that's how I look at it. That's how I look at it. But you know, people always say, you know, the question to me they'll ask, and I'm sure you could agree with this, you know, would you change anything in your life? Like I always say no. Like, would you change anything, Logan?
That is a great question, and one that often seems so unnecessary to ask because people assume the answer. But would I change anything, especially typically revolving around the accident? And, you know, as I alluded to earlier, nothing ever happened to me. Absolutely not. Wouldn't change a thing.
I want people to really listen to that, because I know exactly how I'm going to end this episode. We're not going to do it yet, but I know exactly how I'm going to end it because it's so powerful. But Logan wouldn't change anything. He's a good-looking guy. He's strong as hell, so don't mess with him. And if you even try to, I'm going to come back, and you don't want that happening. And the guy's got great energy. He's got a great mindset. Logan, look, I really appreciate you jumping on the show. You're going to inspire a lot of people. Anything you'd like to add, please let people know where they could find you so they can start following you and, continue on your journey.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to make a shameless plug about, my company, the Adaptive Training Academy. You know, we exist to challenge the status quo, and we do that by showing trainers, therapists, coaches, and athletes around the world that the traditional approach can be modified and adapted to be inclusive and accessible for people with disabilities. So we host seminars and host education all over the world. And for you, gym guys, maybe even your trainers, you come to the clients. To show the world we're more accessible, I encourage you to check us out at adaptivetrainingacademy.com. We have an online course that is available. If you're a trainer, a therapist, and you want to serve this adaptive population, the population, people with disabilities, we have an online course we just developed through this time in COVID, and it's available. And it gets you your certificate in adaptive and inclusive training. So whether you coach a group setting and one person is in a wheelchair and everybody else is able-bodied, we give you the tools, the information, the examples, and demonstrations on how to train and give a safe, effective, and inclusive workout for everyone involved. I'm not sure if your audience is a lot of trainers, but if they are, I would highly recommend this course. It's been sought after. Hundreds and thousands of people have taken it with the most positive feedback from physicians to trainers and therapists alike. So that's at adaptivetrainingacademy.com, and check out the online course. And myself, I'm Logan Aldridge. I'm very active on social media. Do most of my stuff on Instagram, and that's just last name, first name. So Aldridge Logan is where you can find me there. And if you want to see more about Adaptive Training Academy on Instagram, it's at Adaptive Training. And you'll see all those examples that I talked about here, about people defying the odds, about people showing that they're far more capable and have more human potential than we believe, demonstrated by individuals all over the world.
That's great. And we'll talk about that offline. But guys, thank you everyone for tuning in. And how I'm going to end this episode is very simple. What's your excuse? See ya.